teams that they hear. And I asked that they go to the judges resources page on IBEC 2023, and the form is number 5 in that. So it's an online form. And secondly, the judges present today will give each team brief feedback before I do, and that will be at the end of all 5 of your presentations. And I want to just repeat the obvious that I know you all know, that it's really important for you to look into the camera today and speak directly to us. No notes or no reading, because this is a powerful exercise, and that's part of the criteria for it, that you are really playing into the reality that you've got colleagues around the table with you that you're speaking to. Make sense? And if we're ready, I'd like to remind you of what you already know, but I want everyone to be clear about it. In the 90-second presentation, you imagine that you're an employee of the company whose case you've been studying. You're at a meeting in which people are discussing the issue. However, no one's brought up ethics. There's a pause in the conversation. You step in, you have 90 seconds in which to convince the other people at the meeting that there are ethical issues that need to be addressed. You don't have to argue for a solution. You just need them to see that there are serious ethical issues here. And one member of the team will do that, and we already know our 5 90-second stars. So with that, let's start with Montgomery. And you get 90 seconds, unfortunately, no longer than that. So if you will set your space to 1 minute 30 seconds, I will do the same. And when you start, I will hit this. And I don't mean to be rude, but I will stop you if you are, once you finish the sentence you're on, if you exceed the 90 seconds. Is that understood too? Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're ready, please start. I'm sorry?
Can you hear me well? Just making sure.
I did now, but it was a bing back the last time. So you're a little bit fuzzy is the picture, but I'm sure it'll work. When you start talking, I'll start.
Perfect. As proud members of JP Morgan, we should all feel that our company has joined the Net Zero Banking Alliance. However, we must acknowledge that our investments in fossil companies contradict our commendable efforts. We must recognize that financial and legal considerations are in this net zero commitment, but we are also acknowledge that there are ethical considerations and that policy to take from the company to stop funding organizations that drastically harm the environment. Our investment in fossil fuels not only contribute to greenhouse gas emissions, but also result in environmental degradation, which leads to extreme weather events, air and water pollution, habitat destruction, and increased risks of accidents and spills, which unfortunately directly affect individuals and communities, especially the most vulnerable. Furthermore, fossil fuels are associated with human rights violations and environmental injustices. By investing in this company can be seen as supporting these violations, which contradicts our company values of respect for human rights and environmental responsibility. As members of this company, we play a fundamental role in promoting ethical practices and company values. We must ensure that our decisions take our company to and will lower carbon emission and more sustainable future. I urge you all to consider these ethical issues and take accordingly. Let's honor our commitment to sustainability by investing in companies that align with our values and promote social justice. Thank you.
Les, is there any possibility that we could help? Mariana, it was very hard to hear you.
I think what she might want to do is log off and then log back on. I can't help with her bandwidth issues on her end here.
Okay, it doesn't do you justice to have us miss the pieces of it when the internet wasn't working. So I think the best thing to do is to have you come redo it at the end, if that's okay with you.
That's
And
perfect. Thank you. Mhm.
if we could, I think Les had a good suggestion that you leave and then come back, but I don't know that, should she do that closer to the time that she's actually going to speak?
Well, if seeing the other contestants gives her any value, we want to allow her to do that as well. So it's up to her, depending on when she wants to come back in, I think.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to, because it'll be, I am back to back with the next one, so I don't have, but I'm sure we have enough time in this hour and a half, but you get to decide when you want to go out and come back. But I did want to let you know that you would be the last. I mean, you'd be
It's
the
perfect.
last one.
It's fine. It's
so
fine.
you do
I
what you
understand.
need to do. All right. So thank you. And the U.S. Military Academy.
Yes, I'm ready to start the clock when you are, ma'am.
Okay. And so Jacob, let me just write this down. And also just, oh, she doesn't know, but it's very hard when I did not interrupt her, but she was more than the 90 seconds, and I'm going to need to have the 90 seconds be honored. So
I will have the clock up on the screen, ma'am.
Thank you very much, sir. All right. When you start, I'll hit.
Well, I've really enjoyed our discussion so far today. I worry that we haven't been addressing some of the ethical concerns. If we choose to follow the actions of our competitors like Visa and withdraw our business from the Russian market entirely because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, my concern is that might have ethical consequences that we have not yet fully discussed or comprehended that will need to affect our decision. So if we're purely going to think on, say, some of the ethical consequences, intended or not, of withdrawing from the market entirely, I think we need to address the fact that it probably won't have a meaningful impact on the ability of the Russian government to actually raise funds and conduct its war, and that the people who would suffer most if we withdraw credit services and other financial services from the Russian market entirely are probably going to be the people least connected or most repressed by the Russian government as it stands. The Russian government has a lot of financial resources that we're not providing, but lots of individuals, especially political dissidents or Russian poor and ethnic minorities, have less access to those resources as they are and are probably more dependent on us. So withdrawing our credit cards and other services would disproportionately be hurting lots of people in Russia who are not the driving force behind the invasion of Ukraine. And it could also further bolster some of Putin's most radical arguments that the West as a whole is at war with Russia, which are baseless in truth, but would be far more compelling if people were drawing a blank on their bank account because of us. I think these are some pretty clear ethical issues we need to consider before we take actions based purely on monetary concerns.
Thank you very much. And I will move to the next. University of Georgia. I'll start when you start. We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now, yes.
All right, thank you. Sorry. As an employee at TikTok, I am proud to be working here because I believe in the idea of individuals sharing content, sharing ideas, and having like a discourse with each other. However, making such a platform also comes with extreme responsibilities. I feel that what is represented on our platform and what is allowed in our platform is partially a representation of ourselves and a reflection of ourselves and our ideas. I don't feel comfortable hosting content that could do irreparable damage to not just to individuals, but to society as a whole. I feel like we've seen this enough with the vaccine hesitancy that's spread around, or the virality of bad health information such as abortions, bad abortion information where people are trying to self-harm themselves in order to get an abortion due to the political landscape right now. We need to take a deep look into what we're doing, what we're platforming, because what we are doing has a large effect on the discourse and the ideas of the world right now.
Are you done?
Mhm.
Okay. 15 seconds early, but that's okay. I'm going to need a couple of seconds because I made quick notes and I just want to make sure.
Mariana, while Gail is doing that, can you give us an audio test really quickly, please?
Is it this better? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can
Yes,
hear you.
Yeah. Okay.
That's much better, Mariana.
Okay, yeah, I changed my internet connection. It was probably that.
All right. Thank you for waiting. So next is the University of Georgia. And let me get my,
Oh,
Right.
I already went.
She already went.
that's good because I had just written it in University of Georgia and I thought that my lack of sleep last night meant that I had missed it. So luckily, thank you. And the next speaker is going to be West Point.
Ma'am, we also just went. You might be going in reverse order.
You know, I am going in reverse order. And so now it's so I've done West Point, Georgia, and now it's Stetson.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, well, eventually, I'm going to get it right on this one.
Right.
A few more hours sleep, and who knows, I might have started perfectly. Okay. So I look forward to the Stetson, and let me know when you're ready.
Okay, I'm all ready. So,
When you talk, I'll start.
Fruitland Enterprises is in need of a new policy for relationships in the workplace, as our old policy is outdated and not effective in today's society. If it is not properly addressed, workplace romance presents numerous opportunities for ethical issues to occur, including power dynamics, favoritism, conflicts of interest, and privacy concerns. Even if a relationship does not lead to a conflict of interest, the appearance of one can be just as damaging to a company or an individual. Obviously, not all workplace romances lead to negative consequences. My parents, for example, have been teaching together for over 40 years and are happily married. The proposed new policy holds both supervisors and employees accountable for their actions while also being tolerant of the reality that both supervisors and employees are human. I believe that this will lead to the greater good for all involved parties, from maximizing productivity and subsequently shareholder wealth to creating a safe workspace for all employees. We should want to create an ethical work environment free of conflicts of interest and volatility. And you know what? Life happens, and as a result, sometimes love is going to happen too. We can either run from the issue or we can face it head on. As an employee myself and a stakeholder, I hope to see Fruitland adopt this policy for a more healthy, tolerant, and ethical work environment. As a company, we should choose the policy that is just as human as the employees.
Thank you. And I need a little bit. Thank you very much. And Potsdam,
Okay, are you guys able to hear
State
me?
University of New York. I'm sorry.
Are you guys able to hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I have my time. Although there are many ethical issues that have to do with ChatGPT, like the political bias responses from the chatbot, and or that AI technology is replicating and resembling human-like behavior so much that it's able to take our jobs from us. The main ethical issue that we are focusing on is that students are cheating and writing their assignments through ChatGPT. And this is worrying to the educators and causing issues within the educational system because educators are not able to be able to distinguish the student submitted work from their own or if it's AI. Educators have third-party resources like GPT-0 and an OpenAI classifier to be able to determine whether or not the work that they submitted was written by themselves or if it was written through AI. It's very unreliable though, because the feedback ranges from likely generated by AI to very unlikely. One of the main issues with this is that OpenAI is aware of the situation of students using their software for this. Under their mission statement on their website, they have the usage policy that states they disallow the usage of their models for plagiarism and academic dishonesty. However, OpenAI is not fixing this issue.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And now we will go back to where we started from. And that's always a good place to be.
Just making sure that you hear me once again.
We can hear you. All right. Wait a minute. Have I done? I know this sounds ridiculous. We've now done West Point, Georgia, Stetson, SUNY, and now the last one is Montgomery. All right. When you start, I'll start.
Perfect. I'm setting my timer.
Wait a minute, then I
Mm.
don't want to cut you out of, okay, so start talking and then I'll do it.
As proud members of JP Morgan, we should be thrilled that our company has joined the Net Banking Alliance. However, I consider that our investments in fossil fuels contradict our commendable efforts. We must recognize financial and legal implications, but we should also recognize ethical consideration that might take place, and the urgency of our company to take action and stop funding companies or organizations that have drastic harm on people and environment. Our investment in fossil fuels contribute to greenhouse gas emissions, which also lead to environmental degradation, such as habitat destruction, air and water pollution, and extreme weather events. This can also increase risk of accidents and spills, which unfortunately many individuals and communities are affected for and are the most vulnerable. Furthermore, fossil fuels companies are associated with human rights violations and environmental injustices. So by investing in this sector, our company can be seen as supporting this violation, which of course go against our values. As members of this company, we play a fundamental role to promote the ethical practices and to uphold our company values. I urge you all to consider these ethical issues and take action accordingly. We must ensure that the decisions taken by the company company prioritizes the protection of health, safety, and human rights, while also supporting the transition to a low carbon economy and a more sustainable future. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Just trying to get this in order. And clearly there was a better way to do this. This morning's 3 was a lot easier. Okay, so let's start with West Point, and I will invite both Kevin and Allison to make brief comments before I say anything. And doesn't matter who goes first. Allison, do you want to go first?
Sorry, this is
This is West Point, the other name being the U.S. Academy. Or
okay, sorry,
I
yeah,
don't think I've got that right.
yeah. Actually, can the other judge go first? Because I'm actually I scribbled a few notes and I can't even read my notes.
Okay, Kevin, would you please go first?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Basically, you know, I'm a retired professor and I've had 2 teams compete, and I know how much extra work you put into this. And I want to commend you for that investment of your time. It pays off in a big deal. West Point, Jacob, thank you for your service. What I really liked about, and what I liked about all of the presentations, you all had kind of a different take on the ethical landscape as to how we'd approach this. What I liked about yours is you had such a nice, clean strategy that was well detailed as to what is the impact of our decision. And I felt that that was very well crafted. I had the pleasure of judging a earlier team from West Point, and it was excellent. And so I thought you did a very fine job. And again, thank you for your service.
Allison?
Yes, I also liked your presentation. It was, to me, robust, well done. I got the message very clearly. I'm surprised others hadn't thought of the sort of ethical issues on the board that you're part of, because they should be thinking of these things. And I liked your presentation. The only slight sort of improvement that I think you could make, you weren't looking very directly at the camera, and I'm just curious, you seem to be looking sort of slightly sideways, and I recognize that's a challenge. And were you?
Yes, ma'am. I was keeping a close eye on the clock. I think you missed it 90 seconds.
I know, but that's so we're trying to make this as much like real conversation, and that's a challenge. But I agree. I was impressed. I got the message, which is the important thing, and in 90 seconds, that's very hard. So congratulations and thank you.
Thank you. I felt that one of the things that really matters about the 90 seconds is that it's believable, that it's a conversation that you're comfortable with. I've done this for several years, and I've been amazed at the number of people who feel that theatrics and high expression of hands and all kinds of things, which work beautifully in a theater environment, don't sell it around a dining room, around a break room environment. And so I liked very much that it was credible. And given where you are, the seriousness with which you portrayed it was effective, because that is your experience. And chances are, if you stay in the military and that's the kind of thing that tone that is set in a company environment, I think it really helps to be able to speak from that space. So I think that was very effective. You were intense and you were very clear about it. So it was something that somebody would listen to. I mean, that's part of the other piece of it. Will people actually be paying attention? And it was clear that it mattered to you and it had to be taken seriously. So I think that was a very effective presentation. Thank you. And you all can have questions at the end, but we're just going to go through. The next would be Georgia. And Kevin, if you want to start, that's great.
Okay, thank you. Lance, what I really liked about your presentation is it's like one of the things that's really important to me. Ethics are a reflection of ourselves, and there's strength in that. And especially now with branding being so important, when you connect the ethics to the organization like you did, that creates a much stronger, it attracts my attention. It would attract attention when you say we're reflecting ourselves, because I really see, like coming from my industry, hotel industries, that people are going to hotels that are more environmentally friendly. They're making those choices when they see a more environmentally responsible hotel that is green and has got their qualifications for that. It becomes a selling point. And I like that you tied it towards that. I have to find a critique, and it's tough to find critiques for all of you. The only thing I can think of, just straighten your tie, put your shirt together. It's a presentation, and just remember that's a small thing when you go into your consulting work. Okay, just thank you.
Thank you.
I was going to say something about the tie as well. I mean, I put it
Okay.
on, especially for you guys, which wasn't on this morning. So
There you go.
It was a late night for all of us. I'm assuming it was, yeah.
No, I also really liked your presentation. The one suggestion I would make is a closer at the end. The final sentence sort of wasn't there. And I think it's something that all of you can think about, but you want to end with one sentence, say the harm is this, the benefit is that. The price we're going to pay is not much, or whatever the right phraseology is. And I just think we should be concerned about this, or something like that, but have a closer, because when you're talking and trying to persuade somebody that something's important, you want to be able to say ethics is important because on this issue. So that's just a suggestion, but I really liked it, and I did the full presentation with you yesterday, and I have to say it's a tough issue that you're dealing with, but it is an ethical one as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. I liked how you started. As an employee, I'm proud too.
Yeah.
That was a good way to be connecting with everyone. I liked your language. If I could read my handwriting, you allowed yourself to talk about irreputable issues and what we're doing in the platform. I thought it was dangerous to bring in another issue that may have employees feeling the opposite of how you feel. And that would negate the effectiveness of the message. So my suggestion would be that when you are hopefully at some point able professionally to step in and make comments to peers, that you think about what it is that it will take to have them see what you see without any impediments that could trip them up. You did have 15 seconds more. So Allison's point is well taken, that strong finish, that last sentence can be very powerful to someone. But I think it was strong and I think it was effective, and congratulations. And if I didn't say congratulations to the previous, to Jacob, I apologize. But I feel that for all of you. I think all of you deserve congratulations for the effectiveness with which you have taken this seriously and treated it, I think, effectively. So now we are looking at Stetson.
Yeah, I'll go
And
first.
That's great.
Okay. Yes. Graham, I like your approach from policy. Policy is so important. It's one of the fundamental, it's fundamental to ethics. And the fact when you say we want to tie this to policy, that strengthens your argument right from your position right from the beginning. So I like that you brought in the importance of policy and how and it's really important. I think you bring up a really great issue. A lot of policies are outdated because things are moving so fast. And I think that the fact that you can say, hey, here's an issue, it's outdated, we want to move it, we want to change our policy. I think that's a good broad-based approach for any ethical presentation. I had this sense that you were very energized by this topic. I think you really owned it. I think that you presented it. There was an intensity with that. And that is also helps in the connection of your message, because I really believe that this is important to you. And that came through in your presentation. Again, like all the other excellent presentations today, I have to find a critique. You're too far away from the camera. You got to get yourself closer to the camera. You know, if you look at some of the other presenters, they're right there, and your facial expressions and nonverbal communication, which is most of our communication, that would just strengthen your overall presentation. But I really believe this was something you really wanted to answer and work on, and there was an intensity with that, and I appreciated that.
Thank you.
I can add a few comments to that, Graham. I also really liked how you actually brought in the pros and the cons. There's two sides to this issue, and that's one of the challenges. But you made it very clear that you need a policy that actually sort of, workplace romances happen, but we've also got to make sure that it's in a safe and good environment. Which is a policy statement. So I like hearing that, because to me, many of these ethical issues are sometimes a little sort of, they overlap in some sense. And you've got to sort of explain it a little bit better on an issue like this, because it's an important one. So congratulations. You had a nice closer. We're responsible for creating a safe place to work. That's for both sides, everybody. And I like that, because it left me with a clear message as to what it was that you were trying to pass over to me. So thank you.
Thank you.
I agree with the distance of the camera, but I think the message from that's more that is universal is, when we are in fact conveying really important information to our peers, it just makes sense that we know that our engagement is really important, however that needs to be. And in a normal situation, people would be sitting around you and it wouldn't be an issue. But it's always good to think about what our impact is going to be if we care enough to say what we're saying. So I think Allison's point was good, even though it's not as relevant as it would be in a setting, but it reminds all of us that how our settings need to give us value for our impact. I liked your language. I liked the way that there was no sermonizing, there was no clarity around. Your tone was such that people weren't going to know what you were really on what side you were going to be, so that there was that kind of coming into it in a way that would command people's attention. And it was relaxed and effective that way. And your language about the human life and behavior and the realities that that everyone would feel helped make the case for what you were trying to say. It was very, very effective in its ability to be a kind of conversation that people would then be comfortable joining in. And I think that's a strength in making a comment for 90 seconds the way you did. So congratulations, as
Thank
I
you.
said to everyone. And SUNY, Caitlin. Kevin or Allison?
Okay.
What?
Allison, you can go first.
Caitlin, I enjoyed very much your presentation of 90 seconds, but I was a little concerned at the fact that you sort of got up and stood at the back, because this is intended to be like more, it's the people around you and you're talking in a group. But maybe that wasn't clear in some of the sort of instructions given to people. I think the issue of ChatGPT is one where it's challenging, as you brought out, for students and also for the teachers, the faculty. It's challenging on both sides, and I like the fact that you brought that out. And the fact that OpenAI isn't good enough yet to fix this issue. But by raising it early, hopefully there'll be a lot more movement to try and fix this issue, because it is going to be one for not just teachers, but for everybody in the work environment is going to face this challenge. So I like that. And again, I actually think that there was no closing argument, because it sort of ended with, you know, OpenAI is not fixing this issue. So come up with a closer that would really strengthen your argument. To me, what you're all doing is you're trying to raise an issue, explain it, sell an answer to it or what you think should be done, and then have a close on it. And those sort of 4 steps, is if you think it through, will improve the sort of organization of your quick thoughts, because what you have to do in the real world is think on your feet, and having a bit more structure behind it helps you. So thank you. Good job.
Thank you so much.
Kevin?
Hi, Caitlin. You know, as a retired professor, this is pretty close to my heart as far as teaching, but I'll have to add something to this. I like the idea that you say, yeah, I am responsible to ferret that out, you know, and I've got my tools I pretty much caught that happen from time to time, because I gave a lot of writing assignments, and it was very clear to me who was going to the internet and who was going into their own thinking process. And it also, you know, I'm responsible when I used to run hotels, if someone stole money from me, I would look to myself, what did I do that made that possible? And I think it applies to AI here. What do I do what do I not do to make AI possible? So I really like the fact that you say, yes, it's on students and AI, but it's also on us educators that we've got to take the proactive steps. And there's a number of them we can take out there with our writing assignments and the way we structure our assignments for our students to see if they're thinking. My students have as much writing as an English class. And so when it came to papers and things like that, I could pretty much tell who had done the work and who had done the thinking behind that. It wasn't something, because in the hotel business and the management positions, a lot of that is value, emotion, and that go into their decision making. So I like the fact that I like the topic. It was very close to my heart. And I think that, and I like the fact that you spread it between educators and students and AI. I think there's, and I think it's really an important topic, because if we allow our students to drift into this AI, they're not going to learn the process for good decision making. They're not going to learn the process how to think things out. My job for students is to get them to think and to learn how to learn on the job. AI doesn't really do that.
Thank you, Kevin.
So that, yeah, I'll just give you one last thought here. Yes, the distance as far as your away from the camera, you should have been up closer. I would just add that. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Actually, Caitlin, I'm going to depart from my colleagues. I think it was great that you were standing up, because conversations happen in all kinds of places and all kinds of situations. And I think that was fine, because it's a way of, and it was casual and you had a lot to say, but it was to me, the kind of thing that can catch people in the hallways. It's what life is. While you can be sitting at a table or at an official meeting or whatever, I think it was effective. It's one strategy of many, and what matters is that you operate out of that particular strategy. I liked that you were looking at the camera, that there was no way that you could be reading anything or having notes, because you were too far away to be able to see any of that. And that is, in fact, the purpose of this exercise, is to be able to be and feel improv, because in the moment, you don't really know what's actually going to happen. So I think that was effective. I think the message, Allison's point of having a closing is always a good idea. But in a conversation, if you felt you were making the impact that you wanted to make, the next person would hopefully come in with, we're not done yet, and someone can say, and I think, that's the interchange and interaction. So I think the purpose of all of these, and all of you were different, and that's terrific. And I think what matters is, your own comfort level and environment of how you want to express what you want to express. And what matters is that it is expressed. And so I think that I give you all lots of credit. And I think the judges' comments were really accurate too. And what we know about feedback is that it's good to take it in and figure out whether it exactly fits for the thing that you were actually trying to do. And that's the best we can give you. In certain environments, some things work much better than the others. So thank you very much. And I believe our last presentation is Montgomery. And which of you two would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
So thank you very much. And I think that you handled the technological challenges very well, by the way, because that happens. And I congratulate you for coming through that and then being able to still give a really good presentation. I like the issue that you raised, and I understand it, but I'm not sure it was quite raised in the way that was convincing, because I think that a company like JP Morgan has a conflict of interest, clearly. It's got investors' money it's trying to give a return on, and at the same time, support companies that are involved well involved in, to stop funding the companies that are harming the environment, etc. So that's the challenge for them, is how they balance that. And I'm not sure that balance came out. And I recognize it's a challenge to do it in 90 seconds, and there's other conversation around it. But I do think that you had a nice statement at the end, which was it's in conflict with our values, the company's values. And that is a good argument to make. But that has got to be reflected by the two sides of that. So congratulations, as I said, a tough challenge, but you came over very well in the second time round.
And thank you.
Mariana, I agree with Allison. I like the fact that you take those ethical, you tie it to what are our values in our company. I think that is so important for ethical, proliferation, is for companies to see our values. This is who we are. This is what we're going to do. And I agree with Allison. You took on a big one there, because JP is kind of all over the place, but I think that you drew a good line with that the values, the ethical values, are us, and that's who people see us as. And I would probably add, I think with our new generation, investors get attracted to ethical people, that organizations that are ethically charged. And I think that could have been brought in there. Presentation, I thought, was fine. I didn't see anything with that. You handled that happens. You handled the technical side very well. But very good job.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
I give you a lot of credit for not losing your cool. And I think that's a fundamental thing that all of us need practice with. I think that was great. It is a tough subject. And I think that it was terrific that you brought in values. What I would like to suggest is that talking about ethical practices and talking about values in a term is not as effective as in that moment talking about what the values were, because an awful lot of employees and a lot of executives as well know they have values, but they don't use the names of those values in conversations. And so at the end of the day, people pat themselves on the back for having a company with values, but they may not always really recognize and relate the value to a particular situation. So that would have been, I think, more effective to have called out, transparency or trust or whatever their values are. And when you talk about ethical practices, it would have been good if you had just identified, for example, X, because a lot of people in a conversation like this aren't going to be tuned in to where your mind is or any of your minds are, because you all have a frame of reference when you're saying something. And so you want to make that frame of reference bigger so that other people can be folded into that when they have more information. But I thought you did a really good job, and congratulations to you as well. And from my standpoint, it will be difficult to make a choice on this one, because you all are very effective. And I think that's important. And I do think this is one of the most important things that IBEC does, to give you this kind of additional experience. Do any of you have any questions? Because we have a few minutes left. Anything about what we said or you said?
Oh, I have a small question. Are we
Good.
gonna ever know, after the scoring happens, are we gonna know what our score was afterwards with the judge reviews?
I believe on Monday, there will be a sharing of information about where things stand, and it will be, I believe, depending on the number of people in a particular set, they'll tell the first two, but they don't share the entire experience.
Okay.
So you'll know that. If it's important, I think it's difficult enough to do this, but what we want to do is, I think, which is normally done, just identify who the winners are and not go any farther than that.
All right. Yeah, that's understandable. Thank you.
In many ways, I consider everybody winners because they came to IBEC, they did everything that they needed to do. And it's a growth experience. And so I think, I have had 13 years of experiencing this, and each year I get more delighted with the insights and ways in which all of you share your experiences with the case that you take. Is there any other questions that anybody has? For how many of you is this your last IBEC experience in 2023? Are you done?
I had fun. I might try it again.
No, I'm sorry. I meant, are you done with all three of the presentations?
Yeah.
Because some of you aren't, I don't think, but it's great. So how did you feel about IBEC this year?
Well, me personally, it was one of the more stressful things we had to do, especially with our topic was a little bit complicated. I feel like it took more, we put more thought and research into this more than even some of our classes. But overall, I think it was a very interesting experience. I learned a lot about my topic, and I'm glad I did it. I think having like a side project where you're learning a little bit more about the world in any kind of case, in any kind of project, is always like helpful for your general knowledge about things.
That's that's really great. I'm sorry about your overwork, but aren't you already, aren't all of you overworking right now anyway?
Yeah, being a student's rough.
I know, but the beauty of that is good achievement. Any other thoughts that anybody has about IBEC?
I would just like to add, having coached 2 teams, this is such a good investment of your time. I know you're all stressed. I know when my students did it, they had to work 12-hour days type of things too, plus jobs and their full load. But it pays off in a big way. And you put that on your resume as you go forward into the workforce, and that'll be the thing that gets you a job or gets you into your career.
Thank you. I heard a couple of other voices.
I was going to say that I agree with Lance. It helped me branch out a bit more because I usually am not into any of this presenting stuff. It's not my strong suit, but it helped me grow and learn. So thank you all for the feedback. It helped me very much.
Gail,
I was also wanted to say that it was a very valuable experience because we have all of your feedbacks. I think that's the most one of the most important part of that. And it was also interesting, like taking an issue, like going into research. Of course, we are not part of the company, so we have to like basically read about it, know about the financial, the legal, and of course the ethical. So connecting all of the 3 aspects is kind of sometimes difficult. Sometimes some issues are more of maybe financial, ethical, but then like putting both in an equal like balance and trying to talk about them is kind of challenging, but it was a great experience. Yeah, thank you.
I'm so glad. I hope for those of you who aren't at the end of your college experience, I hope that you come back next year and do something else. But to Lance, to your point, the knowledge of really complicated subjects. I mean, one of the things that's frustrating is a topic that is too easy. It's not going to be that interesting to people because it's already partially solved if it's easy. But the hard ones, those are really tough. And yet those are the ones I think that we really gain a lot from. So don't, it's important that we don't give up on the tough, because the tough is what's going to hopefully move us forward. We have like 1 more minute. Anybody have anything else they'd like to say?
Oh, I was gonna say, I completely agree with you. I chose the tough topic on purpose, just because, again, I think there are easy things to argue about, and if I feel like I'm gonna be dedicating a lot of time to something, I think it should be knowledge worth like learning, and you're only gonna find that with the more difficult topics, I feel. But yeah, I completely agree.
I just want to say I'm very grateful for our two judges. This is the first time that we have brought in judges for this particular event. We've normally left it with the Uber judge, and I think it matters to give you as much feedback as possible. So I appreciate very much what Kevin and Allison have contributed. And I am just really impressed with all of you. And thank you for the experience of hearing your 92nd, because it's my favorite. So I wish you really good things with your academic experiences. And I certainly hope that what you have learned at IBEC is something you can use in your life.
No, thank you so much for your feedback and everything.
No, thank you. It was a pleasure to meet each of you. I'm sorry it wasn't in person. It would be so much nicer. Hopefully next year we can actually be healthy enough as an environment that we can do that. All good things. And again, thanks again, both to Kevin and Allison. I appreciate it. And I'll be seeing Allison in a few minutes, I believe, again.
No, I'm not on again till 3:30.
Oh, okay. I thought you were on the 12:32. All right. Well, you have a break then.
Okay. No, I've got another meeting.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day, everyone.
Thank you for the
Bye.
Thank you
education
all
advice
very much.
too.
Wonderful experience. And thank you for the feedback as well.